Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 203 of the RRBG podcast. This podcast is a proud member of the Podbelly Network. Go to podbelly.com and check out all the amazing shows we have on our network, including the Sofa King podcast, Robots for Eyes, Art and Jacob Do America. I mean, there's one for everything that you're into. If you're into Magic the Gathering, they got you. If you're into the occult, they got you. You're into serial killers, they got you. Everything. Go to podbelly.com, check out the list, and support the network. I know by now you're probably tired of listening to me talk about Sheath Underwear. But there's a reason for it. I wear them all the time. I'm wearing them right now. They're the most comfortable underwear I've ever had. And like I've said before, they have this pouch in the front for your balls. But guess what? If you're feeling weird about putting your balls in a pouch, use the pouch for other things. There's an array of different things you can put in there. For example, your wallet, hand sanitizer, your passport, a lighter, and some joints, a lemon, Mexican peyote muscle gel. The point is they're incredibly comfortable and convenient. And if you go to sheathunderwear.com and you can use my promo code RRBG, you'll save 20%. Go there right now, support the company, which is owned by a veteran, and support us in the process. It's a win-win. This episode is also brought to you by Killcliff. My friends over at Killcliff make the best energy drink you can buy in the market today. Clean energy, none of that crap that they put in Monster or any of those Red Bulls. No sugar, just clean power for all the grind you're going to have to put in today. And if you're not grinding today and you just want to relax, they also have CBD drinks to help you recover from any injuries you may have, any kind of inflammation. Maybe you went a little too hard at the gym. CBD drink will get you right back on track. Go to their website, killcliff.com. Check out all their different flavors. My personal favorite Ignite drink is the Cherry Limeade. And in the CBD category, you have to try the Joe Rogan Special. It's the Flaming Joe Pineapple with Jalapeno. It's not that spicy. You just get a little bit of a kick at the end. It's delicious. Go to killcliff.com and tell them that RRBG sent you. This podcast is also brought to you by Saints Joints. Go to saintsjoints.com and check out all the awesome products they have there, including the new Book of Saints that comes with 4 packs of pre-rolled joints. It's this incredible, lavish, luxurious-looking gold foil stash box. The works. It's the best-looking stash box I've seen. Make sure to go pick one up before they're all gone. And also check out the new hash-infused pre-rolls. Don't forget, it's saintsjoints.com, and make sure you tell them that we sent you. In this episode, I talked to my friend Peter Santamaria, a.k.a. Attack Peter. He is an artist that is currently working under the banner of Skybound, which, if you're not familiar, is the home for the legendary Walking Dead from Robert Kirkman. He has his very first vinyl figure coming out for a Daruma that he created. If you go to skybound.com and click on their store, you'll see it there for pre-order. We talk about the creation of that, the meaning behind a Daruma and what it stands for. We shared some stories about our youth growing up together in Miami and the music scene and how it helped shape him as an adult. We talked about bullying and mental health. We talked about artistic drive and what it takes to make it in his industry. It was a fun chat. It was great catching up with him. I hope you guys enjoy it. Make sure to follow him on social media at AttackPeter. Pre-order the Daruma figure on skybound.com. And please check out our Patreon page. Go to patreon.com/RRBG. Cheers. Welcome, everyone, to the RRBG podcast. I'm here with my good friend, Peter Santamaria, also known as Attack Peter. What's up, brother?
What's up, dude? How's it going, man?
I'm glad we're finally doing this. We tried to do this a while back when you were promoting your band, and I lost all of the data.
It's okay. I lost all of the band, so it worked out perfectly.
It worked out. It was like a sign from the universe. Like, don't worry about it. You don't need it.
Yeah. So funny because of all the bands I had ever been in, that was the shortest amount of time spent with one, but it was also like the most efficient and productive one, and the one that churned out the most lasting material. Like, you know, Twice the Sun, and even when we were kids and I was doing Idle Minds, like there's not a lot of that floating around left over, you know?
Yeah.
And whatever is not great quality, whether it's video or audio or whatever. And so with Phantom Drive, you know, the music is like documented super well. A lot of it's on YouTube. The video's on YouTube. We shot a video. Like, there's so much of it, and it all kind of came and went in like a year. But I think the best part of it is I did a lot of things while in that band that I couldn't do or didn't get to do in the last two bands, whether it was because of money or because of technology. And I just got a chance to go, you know what? I'm going to fucking put out 10 songs recorded in one band. I'm going to shoot a video. I paid for it mostly myself, my brother and I, and everybody chipped in. That's not fair. Everybody chipped in, but we kind of funded it for the most part because I just wanted to put the pedal to the metal. And then we almost had, I thought, a shot at going a step further, and then I just didn't sense the enthusiasm from everybody, all the members, and life was playing a part, and yeah. So it's all good, but it's funny because when that was going on, Attack Peter as a brand and as an art brand was kind of like on pause for a minute, and I just couldn't even think about doing art during that time. I was just interested in doing the music, and now it's kind of flipped the other way.
Yeah, man. And for most people that are tuning in that know you now, know you because of your success with, Skybound and everything you're doing, may not know about the musical aspect and that it came first, pretty much.
Dude, it's so funny because the majority of the success I've had has been thanks to all of the lessons I learned growing up in a band in the music scene, which was so much more valuable than even I thought it was at the time. It's like I thought it was everything in my world back then. For those who don't know, like, we were teenagers and growing up in the South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Dade, Broward, music scene, when it was like all kinds of new metal, then it was all kinds of hardcore, and then it was all kinds of punk going on, and it was 2 shows, 3 shows a weekend. It was like a whole real life community around it. Everybody knew everybody. You'd watch bands come and go and rise and fall and get signed. We had Non-Point, Darwin's Waiting Room, Endo. Before that, Marilyn Manson was big, although we were probably a little too young for that.
Yeah.
To see it like in its infancy. But the point was, it was everything, and we were kids, but we were kids in a Superman, like in a man's world, in an adult's world, where I think we got taken advantage of for our naivety, not in any weird pervy way, just like, as kids, we got, taken advantage of, which was good. We learned, hardcore lessons.
Yeah.
We were taking meetings with fucking A&R guys and executives from labels. Like, it was so fun because when we were doing Twice the Sun, you were there all the time. Like, everything we did, we had a bunch of friends who were like with us no matter what we did. When we played a show, you guys were there. When after the show, we would go and party. It was like the band had 25 members, and then just like 5 of them played on stage at the time,
Yeah.
But you guys saw it all, and it was so funny to think back now I'm 37, and I'm just thinking like, dude, we did a lot of fucking crazy shit as kids, and not much of it is like what you would associate with like, teenage debauchery. I'm talking about like, we made, contacts with labels and snuck backstage to meet the managers of other bands and hand out stickers and demos and produce merchandise. And like, we ran businesses, dude. And we didn't even think of it like that back then. So now with Attack Peter as a brand, that's kind of like born out of a unusual art style in the pop culture world, the only reason I think, outside of the fact that people like the artwork, of course, the only reason I think I've been able to sustain people's interests and grow and get a larger platform is because I've taken all those lessons, like literally to every lesson. Like, you're the smallest band in the scene, try to get on a show, any show, with somebody who's bigger than you, even if it means 10 people at the show, because 2 people may have come out to see you, but now there's 8 other ones who know about you. Cool. Next time you go, try to get on a bigger show. You'll be the opening band at an 8-band bill. 15 people will see you, but that's 5 more than last time. And that's how I treated the convention circuit, meeting other, companies, representatives. Dude, it's just everything has come full circle. And sometimes I take for granted that was a rare experience you and I had when we were kids.
Yeah, man. It's very rare. And it's getting rarer, if that, because honestly, now, kids, how old were we? 14, 15, 16?
Yeah. First time I played a show, I was 15 years old.
Yeah. So at 15, kids these days have access to everything.
Right.
You know, you have access to all the information. You have a platform already ready to go. All you got to do is sign up for TikTok or whatever it is, and you can make whatever you want. But there's none of that experience of building it and like having to work for it like that we got. It's weird. So the content that's coming out, I mean, some of it's great, obviously, but some of it's not that great because people just don't have that life experience that we had.
I think that's part of it. I also think that content now is fleeting, where it's like, think of this, man. Like we used to ride around with CD wallets in our cars, and it was like if you had a small CD wallet, for example, and like a 1-disc CD player in your car, you had to be really choosy of what albums you brought because that's all you were going to get to listen to. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so now it's like you have everything at your disposal at all times. Nothing is that sacred just based on the numbers. You know what I mean? Not that it's not important to you, but it's like everything's available all the time. Like the world's changed in such a way that's what I'm talking about now. Back then it was like, how do I work on my craft enough that when I get a platform, it will matter. And now it's like, okay, work on your craft all you want, and you have a platform at any point, anytime you want. How do you stay relevant and matter from one day to the next, 1 hour to the next, 1 minute to the next? Because as cynical as it sounds, people like to poo-poo the algorithms and this. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. Like that's the world that we live in now. And you can just be like, man, you better turn post notifications on or comment and tell me if you can see this post because Instagram's fucking with the dude. Like you gotta play the game like that we are in until you don't have to. Yeah. Until you don't have to. You know what I mean? So with kids now, I feel like I'm trying to pay attention to how they're moving and how they're, paying attention to things. And it's fleeting. Everything is fleeting. Everything lasts, short amounts of time. Something's popping off every second. Platforms don't matter as much. Like TikTok is already starting to feel old. Yeah. And now people talk about Clubhouse. You know what I mean? So it's like the platform, everything is ephemeral. And so the only thing, the one thing, again, to circle back around that I remember from when we were kids is there were so many shitty bands that when we were kids, they got tons of people coming out to their show. And I think the reason why was because they were building community around the product. So one band, there was so many great local bands that no one would go see, right? And then there were shitty ones that everybody would go see. And by shitty, I just mean like, whatever. It's because they were throwing a party every time they had a show, and they were the band at the party. Yeah. Now with Attack Peter, I'm trying to take that notion where we have these live streams every Thursday that are really just a hang. They're just a hang. Like last night we had an artist who goes by Dope Pope on online, and he is like a super realistic digital sculptor, and he designs toys, and his stuff has been like confused for the concept art for big Godzilla movies. I mean, the guy's like on another level. And last night we just had him on the stream. We were talking about his work, and we had a bunch of people in the chat, and it was just a hang. It's just a hang. But now when I go and I drop a new print, like I'm going to drop next Thursday, the only way to get the print is to come to the hang. And you don't have to buy something at the hang. You could just be there for the hang because we don't always sell stuff. It's not about buying and selling stuff. But when we do, it's at the hang. And so that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like if everything is an option, if you could go anywhere and be anywhere at all times, how do I make it that you choose my hang, right?
Right, yeah.
That's what we learned when we were kids at those shows, I think.
Yeah. That's the commodity, right? Your time. Yeah. Your time is a commodity. How do you get people to give you their time? Yes. And that is definitely 100%. Like it's that community aspect. That's what, any success that my band saw was that. It was that we had house parties and there was 100 kids there just hanging out. There was a few bands. We would do other things too. Like we would have people painting. We would have people fighting in the backyard. You know what I mean? But it was that. It was building a community. And, to a degree, that's what these social media platforms are about. It's supposed to be about community. But if there is no, I don't know. I feel that the physical attraction is there. Like, you need to be there.
Yeah.
And, the Twitch thing helps, especially during these, times of the pandemic and whatnot. But yeah, how do you get people to tune into your Twitch? That's the thing people should be focusing on. Obviously, your content is important. You can't just have people come watch you play video games and you don't say a word. You know what I mean? I've seen that too. I've seen people like, hey man, come check me out on my Twitch. And then I tune in and they're just there like,
right. It's supply and demand. Like, anybody can do that. And maybe some people enjoy that. But then if anybody can do that, the amount of people that enjoy that are divided up amongst everybody who can do that.
Yeah.
So it's on you as a content creator, an artist, a musician, whatever, to figure out something that not anybody can or that not everybody will do, and then promote that. You know what I mean? Like, promoting for the sake of promoting is hollow. It's nothing. It's like, you got to have a reason. You have to respect people's time, the fact that they're coming and hanging with you there. Well, they could be doing fucking anything else. Like, and yes, we're in a pandemic, and yes, there's less to do, but maybe this is the time people are getting closer to their families. Maybe people have developed new routines in their life that you're pulling them away from. Mm-hmm. And to go to what you said about the fact that this doesn't replace physical hangs and all that, the thing is that I fully intend that when the world opens back up, we're going to continue to do our show online, whether that means there will be people physically in the studio with us, sometimes remote, and whether that means that we'll do physical appearances at cons and host a show at a con, sometimes do a panel, whatever. But the show goes on. Now it just has another layer to it. But we started in the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, we started the show in the pandemic as a way, because I was doing physical cons all the time. I did Comic-Con and Designer Con in California, did 5 Points in New York, did all over Florida. So I was like, fuck, how are we going to connect with people now that we can't? Well, this is the least that we can do. And now it's turned into like the cornerstone of what we're doing. And I think everybody who's producing content needs to figure this shit out. Because we're on a music show, I was paying attention to Alien Ant Farm and I over the pandemic, and they put out a really kick-ass song. I know they were working on a new album before the pandemic, and we were talking about doing some artwork for them at one point, and it didn't pan out. So I started hearing and seeing stuff that they were working on before they put it out. And then when the pandemic hit, I just forgot all about it. And then so it came up on my YouTube music notifications. They put out the song and the video, and a bunch of bands are doing this, right? Where they're getting videos made of like people jamming to their music, sending it in, and big collage. Yeah. But that's cool. It's cool. It's like, it's kind of showing perseverance that we're going to like still do what we want to do when everything's fucked up. And when we come out of it, man, are we going to enjoy some shows?
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. And I see it a lot, just driving around when I go out now, seeing gyms outside, people with their gym equipment outside, rooftop, yoga classes and shit like that, and food vendors. It really does show the perseverance of humanity. Like, the world may be falling apart, but we're not going anywhere. Like, we're just going to figure out a way around it. And I think the Twitch streaming, like the show that you're doing with Attack Peter, keeping it going after is awesome, because you've added something on top of your, I guess, brand or whatever. You have now a new thing that it opens up new doors, because now it's normalized that that people communicate this way. Because a lot of times before, like with for example, the podcast, like I wanted to have certain people on the show, and it was like, nah, I don't really like doing Skype, I
was just going to ask you that question, so go continue.
No, yeah, is that like basically like a lot of people are like, nah, I don't want to do Skype, I don't want to do Skype, and now it's like, well, now I can have whoever I want, because everybody's like, this is all we have.
I was just going to ask you, has your guests, like the ability to get guests, changed during the pandemic?
Definitely. Yeah, right? 100%. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm hoping changes after this, too, is like that we've normalized this as a way of communicating. People realize it isn't the fucking, I don't know what was in people's minds before, like people who have social anxiety about being on camera, whatever it is. But now that we've done it so many times and everybody's done it, and I wonder if enough people who were hesitant before will feel better about it and just make it a normal part of doing, because it's cool, man. I love it, dude. Like, you've had a killer lineup in the last year.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I've been lucky. I've been real lucky that people want to do it. There's PR people are now on board with it as well, because that's usually where I get a lot of the guests. It's just PR people hit me up and they're like, hey, you want to meet up with this guy at the studio and whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's cool. But, you know, now that we have this, it's just tons easier. Now it's just getting some of the older guests to figure out how to use the technology.
Yeah.
Like I think I had like Bill from Mastodon on, and this was at the beginning kind of, and he still hadn't really, he's like, I've never used Skype. I've never used it. I don't know how it works. I'm like, it's not that hard. Just, you know, sign up, do your thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think little by little, everybody's adapting, and, you know, and I'd like to see it keep going. Like bands are putting out concert streams that are super high produced, like, you know, beautiful lighting, and like, I'll keep going with that. Yes. Go back to doing shows.
Yeah, the 311 ones they did recently were so cool. Yeah, exactly. Go back and do shows, but this also is cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you think about it, think about this. When we were kids, I would buy, and I say when we were kids because this is just the times, I would remember going to Uncle Sam's in the beach, which was like a record store, you know, when there was like independent record shops, and buying bootleg videos of bands on tour. Mm-hmm. And I had bootleg videos of Korn, bootleg videos of 311, bootleg because somebody just snuck a camera and filmed it all.
Yeah.
And that was because nobody would tour to Miami back then. If you remember, it was always like Orlando and making a U-turn.
Yeah.
And so like to see a lot of bands, that was the only way to do it. How cool is that? Like if you can still tour, you can still do your shows, but on top of that, like maybe 2-3 times a year, you do a big, super well-produced live concert like that. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great. And I love what you're doing, man. The whole thing of having a hangout and revealing prints, like it gives an air of excitement to anybody that's following your art, you know? So tell me a little bit about the art and how you ended up with Skybound. So for people that aren't too familiar, you know, we were talking now a lot about music and everything. Like Peter and I met in Miami through the music scene. And then like years later, I see you at a con and you're doing art. And I'm like, holy shit. And it's, you know, it was great. And little by little, you started developing your style, because some of your earlier artwork, it wasn't wood carvings.
Oh, I was doing a little bit of everything from the like 2012. I did my first show, and I had paintings, I had digital art, and I had a few block prints, which are, for people who don't know, like, you know, I carve a piece of linoleum. It's like a leathery material. And then, so I carve a design into it, roll ink on the design, and then I put paper on it, print it. You can check out my YouTube channel, Attack Peter, and you'll see like some videos of how I do that. The point is, it was just a bunch of stuff that I liked. I wasn't sure what was going to stick. And when I did my first show, that definitely, and the paintings I was doing sold really well. Little by little, I kept adjusting the ratio. Some more paintings, some less paintings, more block prints. And eventually, like, because of my lifestyle, really, I was on the move so much as a teacher. I taught for 13 years, and that I would have to, like, you know, pick up my materials, set it up, work, tear it down, pick up, move to another classroom, pick up, set it up, pick, you know. And so eventually I realized painting is not going to work because it's too much set up and tear down. Carving a little block is easy. You just get a tool to carve with and the actual material, and you can just pick it up and go. And that's what really informed my decision to focus on that. Then doing that more and more and more, I started to figure out how to present that work better, working on these big prints that when I'm at a convention, you can see my work from a distance. And it was hard to call people over to the booth that wouldn't normally, because it's the same thing at a convention. It's like, how do you get people's attention with so many people around? You got to present it a certain way. But it was just essentially a novel approach. Look, it's a super old medium, printmaking. People have done it since, you know, ancient Japan and medieval times, you know, but it's not common in pop culture. Yeah. And so when you take something from outside the world that you're in and bring it in, then you kind of get like a new mix, a new blend, something interesting. And that is, I think, what really helped me stand out. On top of that, my drawing style is very different. It's not common for printmakers. So my drawing style, like the way I illustrate, is more influenced by, you know, Jack Kirby, Mike Mignola, so comic book artists like that. You know, I look at a lot of old artwork from Thailand and Japan, and that kind of blends in with it. And so mixing that stuff together, a different art form, and then just hustling, doing different shows every year, setting up, meeting new people, you know, that kind of stuff. So like the old mentality of flyering for a show. You know, you want people to show up. You got to go to 5 shows one weekend. You're not playing any of those shows, but you bring a shit ton of flyers. You're handing it out, talking to everybody, and that means your next show is going to be a little more full. So same thing. And with Skybound, what happened was after about 8 years of doing the convention circuit, I decided to make 7 years. I was encouraged by my good friend Brian Ewing, who's a great artist, who actually you should have on your show because he does gig posters for every band that you can imagine. The best Misfits posters I've ever seen. Like, it's right up your alley.
Nice.
I'll hook you guys up. He told me, like, you're not gonna like take the next step in notoriety until you get out of Florida and start doing shows in California and New York. That's where everybody goes, you know.
Yeah. And
I hated hearing shit like that. Like, why? You know, we have the internet now, but it's true. As soon as I did that, I did my first show in California and at Designer Con. And I got the attention of Sideshow Collectibles and Super 7. Both of those companies literally at the same time were at my booth, asked if I want to work with them. And that put me on the map. I did some He-Man designs for Super 7. They put on shirts. I did a Spider-Man and print for Sideshow. And that was an officially licensed print, put me on the map there. Then everything just snowballed until I got I won a grant from a nonprofit company that I met at DesignerCon in California. It's called the Kevin Workman Foundation. They're from California out there, and they sponsored me to go to Comic-Con in San Diego.
Nice. And
so they basically, like, I had to go through like a candidate system, and they chose me. I got my flight paid for, my booth paid for, all that. They really took care of me. And at Comic-Con in San Diego is where I got the attention of Skybound. The CEO of the company, David Alpert, walked by my booth. I didn't know who he was. You know, they're not like known faces, these people usually. He liked my booth. I was swamped. I could barely talk to him. He just gave me his card, super nice, and just kept walking. Then I got called back to see if I'd be interested in working on a project with them. And it was a really cool project, but I was so busy at the time, and it wasn't like exactly what I wanted to do. Like at the time, if they would have said do something for Invincible, I would be like, fuck yeah, I love Invincible. But this was like a different project that may still happen. And I'm like, oof, I'd love to do it, just can't right now. I'm kind of busy. And I told him no. I turned him down, which was like going back. I'm like, you fucking idiot! Like you almost ruined everything. But I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on. So thanks to them, they persisted, and they came to see me at DesignerCon the next year. And at the booth, we talked. They sent a few representatives, some great people who I still work with today. Shout out Sean, Kirkman, Garima, Sharma, and Paul Shin. They came out to see my booth. They had just awesome things to say, very complimentary. I didn't know what the pitch was, but after the con, they basically said, hey, man, so we're not really looking to get you to do a gig now at this point. We kind of just want you to be a part of Skybound. And I'm like, what? That's awesome. You have to remember, this is a great place to talk about this because there's a total like analogy for this. Like, as a musician, your whole goal is to get, back then, to get signed to a record label. The record label does all the work for you so you can focus on the music, and then they help to promote you, put you on tour, do all the stuff that you need done so that you could just focus on the craft. Now, whether that's always the case of what happens, we know stories of good and bad experiences, but most bands that we know and love have had decent experiences with a record label because they're still on them. And I know that's an archaic business model now, but that was the norm for a long time. So now I'm in a similar situation, not exactly, but Attack Peter as a brand is a part of Skybound now. So, like, just the way that the Skybound has Walking Dead and Invincible and the Schmodown. Are you a Schmodown fan, by the way? I feel like that's right up your alley.
I haven't checked it out, no.
You know what it is?
No.
Oh, dude, you would love this. It's basically a wrestling league, but instead of actual wrestling, it's movie trivia. And, dude, John Schnepp was like always on that shit. Robert Meyer Burnett. It's Christian Harloff and the Collider,
I feel like I know the name.
You do. SEN. I guarantee if I send it to you, you'll recognize it. But you, dude, it is built for you. You would love this. They got heels and like heroes and intro music and all that. But anyway, sidebar. Check it out. So, Skybound has decided as an entertainment company to start not only doing comics and animation and TV, but they are also they have me as an artist, as a brand. They have Christian Harloff and Schmodown as a brand, and like we're all under the Skybound umbrella. They do all the stuff for us, everything from negotiate gigs with different partners. So like if I want to do recently I did a project with TMNT. I did 4 Ninja Turtle prints, and that was with Nickelodeon I Am 8-Bit. Normally, if that gig presents itself, I have to stop working on my stuff to get on the phone and talk to their lawyers and work out the financials and all this kind of, and it's cumbersome and tedious, and it takes you out of the mindset. But with Skybound, they handle stuff like that. They design, all my YouTube branding. They'll design, all my merchandise. I just give them the artwork and they put it. So they do everything for me, so that all I have to do is just make art. And that made total sense for me as someone coming from a music background.
Sure, yeah.
But when I explain it to artists, it's still kind of strange because you can be super successful on your own, independently. But I feel like this model is so new and novel and it's worked out so well for me and continues to do so. I love talking about it because I think this is kind of the future for artists who are like on the cusp, like I've been doing this for like 10 years already, but the first 8 years did not move as fast as the last year and a half have moved.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's because they've kind of like put that tailwind behind me and helped me, clear my path for me so I can just make the work. So it's awesome, man. It's been a blessing.
And so it makes perfect sense with the music analogy, the whole music label thing. When you're focused on all of the other business shit, you can't. It's too much. You get spread too thin, And that's kind of what usually when you're in a young band growing up, like there's always one guy in the band doing that. You know what I mean? Like the whole band doesn't really like they're doing the music, and then there's one dude. That was me in December. Like I'm designing T-shirts. I'm trying to help out with book shows. Obviously, the other guys book some shows too here and there, but there has to be one person to take charge of all of the business ends of things. And when you have like a Skybound helping you out with that, it's amazing to be able to just focus all of your time on your art. That's the dream, right?
It's amazing, and I honestly think that for creators to do their best work, you got to give them space, and that space is not just like physical space, but like the head space, because it sucks, man. Like I don't like typing up an email blast. Like one thing I put off forever, for example, was creating a newsletter, which is super beneficial, super helpful. And everybody told me you got to get a newsletter, you got to get an email. I'm like, fuck, I don't even want to mess with the software or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't have to do that. And the other thing about it is like, you could be cynical and say that sounds like a deal with the devil. Like you're trading part ownership and part this and part that and all that. But this is a company founded by like Robert Kirkman, dude, who is one of the guys who sits on the board at Image Comics, dude.
Yeah. That
was started by McFarlane and, all those guys. These are people who know what it means to be a creator and to suffer abuses as people treating you like a for hire employee. These are people who respect creator rights. They respect IP and putting the creative at the center of this amazing machine they've built. So they put me in the center and they say, hey, you need help with prints. We got the contact for that. Send us the artwork. Oh, you need to get on some YouTube stuff. We got that for here. Oh, you need help with everything. They have everything going on around the creator versus taking a creator and trying to see what they can squeeze out of them before they run out. It's amazing, dude. And that's part of it too. Like when I decided to do this, I'm like, well, fucking trust Robert Kirkman, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's not like it's a bunch of suits, like some kind of, people trying to make money, investment, what are they called? The conglomerates of people just trying to put money into something. Like these are actual artists, people that have actually done it before. And it's apparent when you go to the Skybound website, dude, you're right there. Like you're like, you scroll down, it's like, okay, the board games, and then boom, Attack Peter.
Oh, dude. It's crazy. Like there's emails that go out that blow my mind because they have this, like when you send you an email newsletter at the bottom, they have like all their brands. And in the top row, it says Walking Dead, Invincible, Attack Peter, Schmodown. And I'm like, what the fuck? Dude, I can't talk about it just yet. When is this going to air?
It'll be a couple weeks. maybe a couple weeks.
Might be still a little early. I can't talk about it just yet, but something's coming out this month that it's not the biggest thing I've ever done, but in a way it is far surpassed what I ever expected to be able to do. And I'll tell you off air about it, but and the point is, like, if not for Skybound, I wouldn't be able to do this. And
if you want to talk about it, and I'll hold this until it's out, or until you can talk about it. I'll put it out afterwards.
No. It's all good. Well, yeah.
All right.
But the point is, like, it's because of this amazing team that I was able to do this thing, and when it comes out, we'll talk about it again or something. But yeah, it's coming soon.
Well, that's good, man. It's good to hear that there are companies that are focused on the artist, by the artist.
Yeah.
You know, some music labels these days are doing that too. There's a few like smaller labels that are helping out, and they help put out records. They help with the social media stuff, because that is super important. And I guess, you know, not to say that this is what you're going to do or what you should do, but Attack Peter is one thing for you. Like, it's this style, right? It's the linoleum cutout. So if you were to like make another brand that wasn't Attack Peter, which you probably won't, because I mean, you've been doing Attack Peter for years now. It's been your personality. You were Attack the Planet before, right? That's
a funny thing. Yeah, like the name doesn't have any meaning other than the fact that it was one half of my buddy Brian and I had decided to build a company together called Attack the Planet, and we each got the emails, like, which is very inspired by like punk rock stuff, you know, like Attack Peter, Attack, you know, Brian, and which is like, you know, Kevin Seconds and shit like that, like taking the name of the band and putting. But the point, it just came from that. The thing is, like, that's what I'm trying to figure out now, Eddie, is like, what is the brand going forward? Because, you know, eventually the audience will expand so that if I'm putting out a new limited edition print or some merch or whatever, that the audience is there for that. But I don't think that's enough for me. Like, one facet of my personality that always comes through is I like meeting and engaging and helping to get other people like to their next step. It's like always been in me, you know, since the band days. As a teacher, I had that feeling. And so now one of the things that I'm working on is figuring out how to make Attack Peter a platform for other artists too. Like, so, you know, we just launched a pre-order for the first ever Attack Peter figure, and it's a Daruma. Do you edit stuff in here, or do you want me to get it? I have it right here.
I can edit.
Okay, you can put that in here.
Okay.
So the Daruma, like, is a design that I created live on a stream. You know, carved it live on a stream. The edition size of the prints was only available to people in the chat. I didn't tell them ahead of time, and then that design kind of like, you know, found itself on T-shirts and hats and stuff like that. And then we, behind the scenes, turned it into the first ever like Attack Peter vinyl figure, which is coming out in partnership with Skybound and Mighty Jacks. So that made me think, like, this design of a Daruma is an old design, you know. I mean, I definitely reinterpreted it, but it's something that's existed forever, and it's something I've seen other artists do. And I'm thinking, like, it might be a good time to launch a platform where I could say, hey, my, you know, 5-10 artist friends that I'm talking to right now, why don't you guys each do a take on Daruma? And like, we'll launch an Attack Peter series of prints that I didn't draw or design. It's just like, I launched it. And it's like, imagine having like 10 kick-ass artists doing a Daruma, and you could collect the whole series of the prints. Maybe one of those gets turned into a figure, something like that. But it's just an opportunity for me to curate something and promote stuff that I like a really high-level show and tell. And then hopefully for some of them, it's like their first shot at a big stage of something eventually. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's what I think the brand is going to grow into. It's like a place where I can do all my stuff, but as long as anybody's paying attention, it could be a place where I could show off and introduce people to other kick-ass artists doing kick-ass stuff. I hope so, at least.
Yeah. So the Daruma that you have is huge, right? I saw you holding it. It's like the size of your head.
I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
Pause this.
Drink some water.
Should have had it with me before the stream. Here's a regular size Daruma, right? Like, yeah. I mean, they come in all shapes and sizes, to be honest. But here's one that I have that was like a pretty common size when I was in Japan. I bought this one, and this is the one that we're putting out, so you can see.
Jesus, that's so much bigger. It's awesome.
Dude, it's crazy. This thing is massive. It comes with a base too. This is the prototype, but it'll come sitting on a base, and the base has like flowers and like wind swirls around it. But this thing is massive. It's a prototype that they sent me to kind of like just see it in hand, get a sense of the size, detailing, and all that kind of stuff. But the target date for it to come out is late April. So when it comes out, it'll be, super nice packaging and like, the whole official deal. I saw the packaging. I showed the packaging on my stream. You know what's funny? When it messed me up when I was looking, I'm like, it has a fucking barcode on it. I'm like, whoa, so official.
I felt that when the band put out our first CD and it had the barcode. I'm like, oh shit, I'm real.
Isn't that crazy? Why does that matter so much? We're so fun.
But dude, so that concept you brought up is a good idea, because it kind of makes me think of like the Dunnies. You know how Dunnies do like a series and they have, 15 variants of whatever it is. So you could have like smaller, since the Daruma is huge, you can have small Darumas from different artists that are going out through that. And then you just come up with whatever the next, Daruma is one thing. But was there any kind of complication with, I don't really know anything about this, but just like licensing or just being able to do a Daruma, since it's something that exists? Is there any, is that owned by anybody?
No. Yeah, that's one of the cool things about it. Like a Daruma is, nobody owns that. It's like I don't know. It's like iconography, cultural iconography. I mean, somebody could come out and try to like cancel me for like cultural appropriation or some shit, I guess. But that's the most I can think about. No. It's not like anything that's owned by anyone. And plus, I've really like reinterpreted to the point where it almost barely resembles a Daruma. I've added a lot of texture and scaling that I use on my artwork. I gave him 2 big underbite tusks that kind of like as a nod to Gamera, one of my favorite giant monsters of all time. And so, a lot of stuff like that. And again, it's a symbol of accomplishing something, like and accountability. The Daruma, technically, it comes with 2 blank eyes. This one will come with 1 eye filled in, but they traditionally will come with 2 blank eyes. And the idea is that you get one of these when you're like, to simplify it, like when you're about to set a goal for yourself of some kind, and when you set the goal, you color in 1 eye. So like this one, for example, my wife Gabby and I decided we were going to get a house. We're going to work really hard to buy a house, and save up and find all that crazy shit. So it had 2 blank eyes. We colored in the first eye when we set that goal. And when we finally moved in and, are living in this new place, we colored in the second eye. And now it sits, when it's got 1 eye colored in, it sits on your shelf, and people would come over, have company over, and they see it. They go, oh, what is it that you're trying to achieve, And it's like people who know and what it means. It's like a conversation starter, and it's accountability. Like people know your community, your family know you're trying to do something, so you got to do it now, right? And when you accomplish it, you put the second eye colored in, you put it on your shelf, and now it's a trophy for what you accomplished.
That's awesome.
You're supposed to eventually burn them, but I'm not going to burn this guy.
Yeah, that's a great. I was going to ask you, like, what's the story behind it? Because I've seen them around. Obviously, you see them at stores, and I'm a fake weeb, so I'm always at like Japanese markets and
so you see them.
Yeah, I see them all the time,
and that's why I wanted to choose that as our first figure launch, because it is so much of what Attack Peter has been for me. It's like, I didn't have like a lot of people, who understood what I'm doing and how to coach me on it. This seemed really difficult. When I used to go to conventions when I was a kid, even go to Comic-Con, like in my early, like I was 20, 21 years old. I remember meeting everybody like, oh, if you want to, be successful, you have to leave Miami. You can't be an artist in Miami. It doesn't exist. And, a lot of shit like that, like what I was like thinking like, oh, this is never going to happen. The world's against me. How am I going to do it? My drawing style is not traditional. I'm not going to be marketable in comics and blah, blah, blah. And so the fact that I just kept pushing without knowing exactly where I was going, and now I'm in a situation where this is what I do for a living, it's the Daruma is a perfect kind of symbol of that, like keep pushing. So this Daruma, you're not supposed to ever color in the eye. It's like supposed to just stay unfinished forever. And that way, to me at least, it kind of symbolizes, your personality forever is to,
Keep
get
working.
after it.
Yeah.
Yes, the never-ending goal. You know what I mean? That's it. And I feel like that's a super, super important thing for me to remember. Like, you got to keep going. Can't get comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what differentiates people, like regular, I guess, consumers from the artist itself. Like that drive, that grind to do something and keep pushing. You have to do something like that if you want to. That's if that's the lifestyle you want to have. Obviously, there's people that are comfortable with their 9-to-5s and their family and their dog and whatnot, but I'm not like that. And we came, like we talked about in the very beginning, like we come from that same core group of friends. Like we all inspired each other. Like you yourself personally, man. Like I remember going to your house at one point. I don't even remember how many years ago, but it was a long time ago. And you had a bunch of pictures of you with like the people you admired.
Yeah. I had snuck in all the concerts and took pictures with the bands and all that. Yeah.
So I remember seeing that wall of you with all of the musicians, and that almost like it subconsciously inspired me to do the same. Like I was like, man, I want to meet the people that I admire, and I want to grow and learn from them. And that's the lesson I took from that. And you didn't even know you were doing that, but you did that.
Yeah. Great, man, because like I really believe, first of all, I think anybody who wants to be successful in something that they love, whether it's the arts or not, it's hard. And if it wasn't hard, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. We wouldn't be talking about it. There are life paths that are, met with less resistance. And then there are those that are super challenging. And if you want something that's really tough, then that mentality is what you have to have, that get after it mentality. But, I've realized more so as, spending time as a teacher for 13 years, how impactful your life is to others, whether you mean it or not. Like sometimes I don't want that responsibility, but I knew when I was teaching kids, especially like younger kids, like everything you say, everything you do, every time you come in a bad mood or good mood, whatever, it's so impactful. And the funny thing is I noticed that it really continues to be the case even with adults. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy even if I don't feel like, every day I wake up, I'm like, this shit's going to end tomorrow. Like, this is too, I really feel like I'm not ever securely in place. Like, it's always going to just, something's going to go wrong or something. So I'm very grateful for it. And I know that a lot of the difficulty I had getting here and the reason I think it's going to always disappear is because like there was a lot in my way to get here. And I'm very grateful for the people like my family and my close friends growing up and some mentors I had along the way who kind of directly and indirectly encouraged me. But also I'm very grateful for the people who try to shit on me and shut me down and made me feel like an asshole for doing what I wanted to do. Yeah. I used to get made fun of for those pictures. You know that? Like I had a big group of friends that would make fun of me for like caring so much that I met Limp Bizkit and Korn and Deftones, and I'm like, I don't care. I like this. Fuck off.
Yeah, you're a Punisher, bro. Stop punishing the bands.
Like I don't give a shit, dude. I don't fucking care. And you know what? Those bands, like I look back now, I'm like, thank God for some of them, dude, because some of them were fucking lunatic assholes I should never have been around as a kid. But then some of them were like, dude, 311 was one of the nicest bands I ever met. I
lost your video. Yeah.
It just turned. Hold on a second. There it is. Yeah. I got to meet 311 when I played Warped Tour one year, and Tim Mahoney, who was like one of my fucking heroes growing up, and Peanut, those guys, and I used to like learn guitar by trying to play what they were playing, and so we were backstage after the show that we got to play, and they were there, and Tim Mahoney, because we were around the keg, and he goes, "Hey, can you, hit me up." He had his empty cup, and I'm like, oh shit, I got so nervous. Tommy was there, and we're pumping. I go to pump the keg, and I had never pumped a keg before. I've drank out of a keg, but I never pumped one. So I didn't even pump the fucking keg. I just grabbed the hose and filled his cup up with foam. And in that moment, I thought like, oh, he's going to fucking think I'm a douchebag and an idiot. And he's like, oh, no, it's all good, man. Just give it a couple pumps, man. And like, you know, like he didn't embarrass me. He just kind of, you know, cool. And then we talked about everything. And like little things like that, that guy's not going to remember that. But for me, that was a moment that just trained me like, you don't have to be a dick. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be protectionist. You don't have to be a gatekeeper. You don't have to be fucking, you know, threatened by other people. Like you could just be cool and still be successful and push other people. And it feels good. Like that's what I like to do. You know, I'm happy to see my friends succeed because I don't want to enjoy this on my own. You know, the more success I get, the more I look around and go, who can I party with?
Right.
You know, that's how I think about it.
Yeah, it's funny because, you know, like you said, you're appreciative of that. I am too. I appreciate whenever somebody talks shit because it gives me that drive to like, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you think so, huh? Okay. Yeah. All right. So like, look at the, you know, and I'm not trying to boast. I'm not that type of person, but like, look at the show. Yeah. You know, because I used to do the same thing. After I saw that wall of pictures, I got inspired to like, fuck it, I wanted to do that. And as I kept doing that over the years, and I would have this collection of like, oh, I met this guy and I met that guy. And then now I'm friends with a lot of these people because of the show, because I wanted to meet them in person. I wanted to talk to them. I wanted to learn from them. And it drove me to create that. And, so amazing. there is that balance of like bullying, taking over and your mental health like being damaged by it, but there's also the drive, that grind, like, hey, I'm going to prove you wrong, I'm going to keep working, I'm going to make this worthwhile. And not a lot of people have that. Oh, dude, and you know what's funny, it's like it's super primitive in the sense that I think what you and I had in common is I wasn't like fucking like adoring the bands. Like I wanted to be I respected them so much. I wanted to be among them. Right. That's the mentality. Yeah. Yeah. And so my proximity to them back then, it was just like, oh, I got to meet so-and-so. It didn't mean that much to me after the fact. It was just a cool memory. But later as an adult, I tried looking back like, why did I care so much when my other friends did? I'm like, well, dude, I'm just trying to like glean anything off the experience that would get me one step closer to living that life of a creator 24/7, someone who gets to create, write music, make artwork, you know, and just be in that space. I couldn't articulate that, you know? Yeah. But it was like, and then, you know, as a kid, you don't know that half of these people are lunatics, you know, but it's like, but at the time you're just like, this must be the person I'm looking for, the sage on my journey to kind of get me there. And even though oftentimes it's not, that's what it represented. And like you said, dude, I always talk about this, like my heroes are artists that are still alive today, you know, and now it's different. Like now I kind of just look at them like, you know, awesome artists and all that. But when I was younger, I was like, I need to get to a point where they respect my work. Like when they look at me and they go, you done well. Like if there's this fucking hilariously fake ceremony where they kind of like bring you in and they kind of said you're one of type of thing, you know. And I know that's horseshit, but like something like that in my head always existed, that I wanted people to know that I respect and love this so much to the point that I gotta be in there. I gotta be and show you that I can do it, type of thing. And it's crazy because I don't even think about that so much now. But I thought about it forever, and it pulled me to where I am now, like you're describing. Same thing. Yeah, yeah. I was when I was younger, there was a Cuban saying, "Dime con quién andas, y te diré quién eres," which means, "Tell me who you're hanging out with, and I'll tell you who you are." Yeah, and that can be interpreted in many different ways. But the way I interpreted it was basically, I admire those people and what they're doing. I want to be that, so I'm gonna go be there with them, because as long as I surround myself with success, I will be successful. Super well said. I used to get told that in a scolding way, but exactly. Yeah, I like the way you're saying it way more. Yeah, because you could take it as, you know, you're hanging out with a bunch of delinquents, you're a delinquent, you know, like it's not. I tried to turn that around because I think, you know, a lot of my friends growing up were kind of a drag, and I hate to say it, but they were just they would bully you or talk shit about whatever you're doing. They're not really doing anything. They're just doing their working. And, you know, I wanted to surround myself with creatives. And, you know, I love that feeling that you said you had when you're like, you wake up and you're like, oh, this could go away any day. Yeah. That's the grind. That's the hustle. That's I can't sit down, because if I stop right now, it's over. You know, and that hustle mentality, I don't want to just attribute it all to Miami, but it definitely helped growing up in Miami in that environment, you know.
Yeah, you're 100% right, because there was always something new popping off. There was always someone leveling up their game down here. Nobody was loyal to anybody or anything. You know, when you got getting comfortable and getting, you know, that's as soon as you got the rug pulled out from under you. You know, like I always tell the story about how the guitar player from Darwin's Waiting Room, Eddie, rest in peace, not to speak ill of the dead, but it's a true story. I was a 15, 16-year-old kid on stage because Darwin's Waiting Room let us open for them, and that was really cool. But we got delayed for our start for some reason that was not our control. Like the sound guy wasn't something, you know? And we were saving our big song for the last song that made us look cool, the big song at the end. And they were telling us, you got to get off. That's it. Last song. And then instead of letting us finish the song that we were on, dude, he came up from behind my set and pulled the plug out of my amp mid-song.
Wow.
And like back then, I'm like, you fucking douche. But now I'm like, whoa, that's a dark motherfucker who would go to a 15-year-old kid and do that in front of so many people, dude. And I used to fucking like hate him for that when I was a kid. And now I'm so lucky that he did that, because you can't fuck with me now, dude. Yeah. Like I've had so many experiences like that, humiliated. I remember I popped a string on stage in my second ever show at Rose's in the beach, and we were playing with Lost and Endo. Endo, you know, was a band that always hooked us up, and Lost played. And the guitar player was standing right in front of me, saw my string pop right off, and he had his guitar right next to him. Like, dude, just hand me your guitar so I can finish the fucking song. I was like, no, dude. and honestly, I don't blame him. You know, fuck. Like, but at the same time, like that guy was like in his 30s. I'm 15. You could have done it. Yeah, you could have done it. And again, I'm grateful for that shit, because nothing fucked with me more than shit like that growing up. So humiliating. I've been humiliated so many times that like nothing can fuck with me now. Yeah. So yes, Miami is fucking awesome for that.
It is, man. You know, that whole environment with the bands. I even saw it with the beer industry, because you know I started working in beer in Florida, and when I brought that energy that I had from selling beer in Florida to California, it was overwhelming. These people didn't know what to do. Like I remember going to Modern Times and getting a call from the owner. He's like, "Hey man, you've doubled the LA sales in a month." I'm like, "Yeah, well, yeah." Now, what do you want from me? Are you calling to yell at me, or do you want me to keep selling beer? Go away. Yeah. But it's that drive that Florida gives people, man. It's nuts that the people out here are too high, man. They're too stoned. So you got.
Well, it's fun. Like the whole company of Skybound is from California, and I love that they are really good at dealing with high intensity and high pressure situations. They are mellow. They are like, not that they're not laid back, but they're like Yoda-esque. You know what I mean? Like they just roll with it, you know, whereas I'm always like you said, I'm like, you know, and I have had them tell me like, oh dude, don't worry. Like we're good, man. Like it's going to be okay. And I'm like, really? Are you sure? Cause I gotta fucking do this and that. I'm learning to like channel that and use it when I need to, because it's been so helpful for me, but also not fuck with their like state of mind and like their like perfectly oiled machine. Right. But it's interesting to hear you say that, because sometimes I feel like I'm the only one who feels that way. It's interesting.
No, dude, it's definitely something that we have from that growing up in that mindset. You know, and you know, you mentioned Tommy, and rest in peace, my homie. But he was one of those people that motivated me too into that mentality of let's do something. He was always the one, dude. Tommy would wake me up. Like if we were sleeping, like I would go visit him. He would get up. It's 8 a.m. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, let's go out. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean go out? He's like, let's go. We got to go do something. I'm like, all right. And then we just go do stuff. And that drive, man, that passion, I think is what makes successful art.
It's weird, yeah.
It makes successful stars. There's the difference, because there's artists. There's a million artists, and they're super talented, and you see them on Instagram. Like I have a bunch that I follow. Yeah. But none of them are doing what you're doing. None of them have had that drive to get connected with like a Skybound situation. Yeah. And there's also that you mentioned the stigma of signing to something like Skybound.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't see it as a stigma, and it's like the saying: "Tell me who you're hanging out with." Or whatever. Don't look at it negatively. Look at the positives of being able to push your art to something like this.
Yeah, dude, for sure, 100%, and I couldn't be more proud. And it's all good. Like, it plays out all the time. There's a lot of that in energy that we encountered as kids in that band scene that still I see it in the artists, like the individual artists themselves. There's a lot of like unspoken rules that you have to fucking follow. You know, like you can't approach a company because that's taboo, that's rude, it's not cool, whatever. Or you can't like just ask someone to do a collaboration. You can't do that. You're like, fuck you guys, dude. You fucking nerds, man.
You can't.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They're like, maybe you can't do it, but I got shit done that way. And I'm not like saying it in a braggadocious way. I'm like, what, if that's part of my tool set, why would I not use it? Mm-hmm. You know? And not only that, like when I get to a point where things are super solid, I am going to fucking turn it around and I'm going to bring up the next guy and I'm going to make that the whole thing that Attack Peter is about. Is like, yes, fucking get after it. If somebody needs to tell me no, like we don't want to do it, we can't do it, great, dude, it's all good. You know, it's not personal. But making those connections, being a human, like, you know, expressing your enthusiasm, being energetic. Dude, like we went through a year where any of one of us could have dropped dead. I hope that after this, like people come out of it with a lot less horseshit, you know, and realizing like how lucky we are to being able to keep going and do the stuff that we love to do on a daily basis. And if you're not doing it yet, that there is like ways to get some of that passion into your life. And sometimes you got to go fucking rip it out of the sky, dude.
Yeah. Go rip it. Go grab the brass ring. Go lose sleep. You know, I mean, I tell people that a lot. Like they're like, oh, not sleeping is unhealthy. Yeah, I get it. But I've spent many days when I'm working on something not sleeping and maybe pass out. Like that's how I sleep. I passed out from working too much. And it's important. It's important to have that. So I appreciate what you're doing. I've been trying to be supportive from the very beginning. Even when I first saw you at the con, like I was like, what the fuck? You're doing art? That's awesome. And I have a bunch of your prints framed in the house. So hopefully they're worth lots of money when you become a
absolutely.
But you know, here's something that we could talk about before we wrap it up. Like you and I, even like I approached you with an idea I had.
Oh, I looked at it the other day. I have the art still.
Yeah, man. I had an idea to do a TV show. I was hanging out at these cons with a lot of the Adult Swim people, and I was like, you know what? I can make something happen here. Yeah. And I sat down, I wrote a bunch of stuff, and you did all the concept art for it. And I still think it's potentially something awesome. You know?
Yeah.
So it shows that like working with people, huh?
You never know. Put it together again. If you're still into it, put it together. Well, we can always throw it. I know people now.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, man. It's one of those.
You never know. In fact, like for real, put it together. Like look over it. See if you think it's needs any work or anything now that it's been a couple of years. And send it back over to me. Like I'll at least pass it up so that you can have conversations. You never know.
Yeah, man. Because that's I think the point of me, like why I wanted to say it is not to bring it up like that.
I know you didn't.
I wanted to help people understand. Like if you have an idea, just fucking try and do it, and talk to people to try and do it. Like I know there's always there's that barrier of you don't want to be embarrassed. You know, like like we were just talking about. You don't want to be like, hey, check out my idea, and they're like, that shit's crap, and then you're like devastated. You know what I mean? Yeah. I recently even did it. I recently started doing art therapy with my wife because she draws a lot all the time, and I used to draw back in high school, but I'm not good at it. But I decided, let me sit down and let me just draw something, and I drew a Corpse Grinder from episode 200.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And I was like, this is garbage. I'm embarrassed. I started like getting shakes. I'm like, I don't want anyone to see this. And my wife's like, dude, I love it. Put it out there. I'm like, no. Yeah. And then, but I put it out there because she told me to, and people responded positive. So like, we have to break those mental barriers.
Let me tell you what I used to tell my students, because this was my job for 13 years, because they were kids having this feeling, and so you kind of like expect that because they're not fully formed humans yet. And when they would make something amazing, like for them, like or sometimes just amazing, period, I'd be like, yo, don't get too excited, bro. Do it again.
Yeah.
Do it again. Like, do it again, or maybe it was just a fluke, like don't get too hyped on it. Like, pat yourself on the back real quick, take a minute, send it to your mom, put it on Instagram, and then let's get back to it again. Same way, when they would do something that terrible, I'd be like, don't get too low, dude. Don't get too fucking hard on it. Just, take some mental stock over what went wrong, what you hated, when did you feel it was going wrong, put it aside, move on to the next thing. And the idea was that if you get caught up in the momentary success or failure, you let it define and dictate the future. And that if you're too hyped on something, then the failure is going to come. And then you're going to be like double devastated because you were so high on it. Yeah. And if you fail and you get way down on it, you'll never come out of it. And so that idea of if something sucks and I can't, because first of all, like don't take yourself so fucking seriously. Nothing that you do matters that much anyway.
Right.
And yeah, seriously. And then I would tell these kids, I'm like, nothing that you do matters that much right now. Anything. Maybe if you're lucky, in a few years, someone will care. No one cares right now. Perfect time to try some weird shit out. And then with this idea of like, they would do something, they would think it sucks. I would think it was really good, because I'm thinking about, well, you're only like 13 or you're 9 or whatever. That shit's pretty fucking awesome for your age. Post that shit online or show it to people. No. One thing I would tell them is, well, fuck you for like having the audacity to think that my opinion of it is not valid. Right. Like, don't tell someone that you think like for example, I used to do this when I was young, younger. I would make something that I think was shit, and then either like a friend or a family member, like, oh my God, I love it. I'm like, in my head, or at worst case scenario, I would say out loud, it sucks. You don't know what you're saying. Trust me, it sucks. And that a professor taught me once, like, it's such a nasty thing to do, because now instead of making it about your work and your disappointment with yourself, you've basically told that person that their opinion is invalid. Right. And worst case scenario, if you make something that actually you do think sucks, if you follow step 1, which is not ruminating on it too long, just putting it out, moving on, you could even put it out as an example, like, man, this thing got the best of me. I liked where it was going, and then it kind of got away from me. And now with the social media and everything, you put it out as a way to say, I'm going to do another one. Check it out. Or if you're thinking about not doing something because you think you're going to fuck up, just do it anyway. Look at this. It's not going to be worse than this shit. And then move on to the next one. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like, there's so much good judo you can get out of something like that. And it feels good. It feels good. I threw away 40 prints yesterday. I'm doing a gig for Sideshow right now, and 40 of them just did not come out the right way. And instead of like just like sitting and thinking about it, just grab this shit, fuck it, toss it. I have a design that I did for Mondo of Godzilla versus Gigan. I was carving, and I got halfway through the carving, and I said, I cannot fucking turn this shit in. This is bad. And I showed it on my stream, like, look how bad this shit is, after I revealed the good one. But, Yeah,
it's practice. I that's what I try and tell my wife sometimes when I see her struggling like with a piece. She's like, I don't know. And I'm just like, look, it's just practice. It's like, if you want to become a good basketball player, you're going to miss a bunch of shots. You're going to keep throwing the basket at the hoop. You're going to miss like 10 of them. But eventually you get to the point where you're making a bunch of them in a row. It's the same with art. It's the same with anything creative, like music too. Like if you're going to create music, your first couple are going to suck.
And there's no point that I've ever reached in my life, and I've had success in a lot of different areas, in weird, hard to get areas, There's no point I've ever reached where I felt I made it.
Right.
I'm good now. I'm good. Like, I'm good at what I do. I've never reached that. And so in our house, Gabby and I, we're always creating something. Like, she's always making stuff. She bakes. She does crafts. We do all kinds of stuff. And we have normalized, like intensely normalized, laughing at our fuck ups.
Yeah, that's what you gotta do.
There's never a down zone, because she came up the same way, where like, we were told like we had friends and quote unquote friends that made you feel like shit when you fucked up. And so like, we've kind of decided, what, fuck that, dude. We're just going to have a good time from now on.
Hell yeah, man. Well, that's a good place to end it for me.
Totally.
I love it. I love everything you're doing. Keep going.
Thanks.
Everybody that's watching and listening, if you go to store.skybound.com, you're going to see Peter's Daruma right up front. It's pre-order it now. I recommend you pre-order it now, because I know you're going to say it's a little out of your budget. Maybe it doesn't matter. That thing's going to be worth a lot more as he continues to grow as an artist, and listening to your story about the importance of what a Daruma is. That kind of shit is invaluable. Having that motivation at home, that grind, that reminder to grind, to keep pushing, to keep working. Social media at Attack Peter.
Attack Peter everywhere. The Daruma is also massive, by the way.
Look at that thing. That's a beautiful piece. I see the full display on the website too, with the flowers that you mentioned.
Yeah. The base is going to be there. So it's a big boy. And like you said, it's the first of hopefully many. I'm always surprised when my stuff goes on the secondary market, what it goes for. So I think you're right. Like if you're into collecting artwork and stuff like that, I think it's a rad piece to start with or to add to any collection. And like you said, it's in my mind, it's the first of many. So it'll be like issue 1.
There you go. Exactly. And that's how I see it. I mean, you can't see all of the things I have here, but I've got a ton of shit everywhere. So, who knows? Maybe I'll never sell it and it's just all sentimental value. But to me, it fulfills my life to have that kind of stuff. It's memories.
Oh, dude, I have like a $200 Godzilla figure that I look at every day. And if I divide the price over how many days I look at it and go, fuck yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's valuable.
Exactly, man. And your show, you say you have a show you're doing in collaboration with Skybound. Is it collaborating with them?
It's just Attack Peter on YouTube. But yeah, that's where that's kind of like our outward face to the world. Every week on YouTube, Thursday nights, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. My wife Gabby and I, my dog Wonton, we get on there and we have a good time. We bring in different guests. We drop brand new prints stuff, and we make stuff there. We have exclusive drops there. We do tons of stuff there to make it worthwhile, even if you can't stand our personality and our faces. If you like the artwork and you like collecting it, it's the best place to get it. Like, we drop secret links in the chat. Things sell out super fast. Then I go the next day on Instagram and I say, I wish I had enough to make available for you guys today. I don't. They sold out on the stream. So it's an awesome place to just kind of hang.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Thanks, dude.
So check out the YouTube channel. Go Attack Peter on the socials. Go to Skybound. Pre-order the Daruma toy. And, brother, thank you so much for your time, man.
I appreciate it. Love you, buddy.
We'll love you too, man. We'll do this again.
Anytime.
All right, brother. Take care.
All right, buddy.